Kia ora, good morning. I just woke up a couple of minutes ago, so I've just had a quick wash and I'm sitting with my coffee, trying to wake myself up. But I need to tell you about this dream I had. It was awesome. It's like I was being shown the future, bearing in mind this is literally the first thing I'm going to work on with the kids once I find them. Once I, go out and do the auditions and find the kids to bring to the school. Like this is the first thing we're going to do is the Night of the Black Sun. We couldn't remember the password to my laptop, so I've got a whole pile of paper and pens there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a whole pile of notebooks, and each notebook is going to be for a different project. And I'll just write it all out, and then when I get my team together, we'll just like photocopy the pages, or I'll get someone to transfer it onto laptop. Then we can print it all out and hand copies to the team. But I had a dream, and it's really weird because it was in the UK. But anyway, I had a dream that my son and I, the one who helped me do the whole Night of the Black Sun zombie apocalypse movie idea, with a little help from my youngest, in one of the best scenes at a farmhouse you will ever see in a movie, but I won't go there, hang on. I had a dream my son and I were sitting in director's chairs, and they were bringing out, like we were seeing the zombies for the first time after they turn. Now, it's one of the reasons why we called the movie Vanta Black. And we were trying to determine how we wanted the zombies to look, because obviously when you're making a zombie movie, what the zombies look like is everything. You have to get the zombie down. It has to, and for me, it has to be believable. And I mean, we're not going to have $1 billion budgets for our movies and that, but our movies are going to be independently made, but they're going to be brilliantly made because, we're going to be having to think outside the box when it comes to like special effects and stuff. So my son and I probably had 10, maybe even a dozen meetings where we discussed what we wanted the zombies to look like once they turned. The good thing is, in this day and age, even though the movie is going to be set in like the late 80s, sort of coming out of the 80s into the 90s, because it's going to be made in modern day, and we're not going to be using CGI or anything like that in this movie, or AI or anything in this movie, but we live in a modern age where it's not going to be hard to do when it comes to what it's going to look like on their bodies, the way, when they're tuned. And then our makeup artists, our stage makeup artists, and that can just do their faces and, zhuzh it up a bit. But I think it's going to look quite awesome. I think people are going to be quite spooked by it. So we were sitting in the director's chair, and they brought the first lot of zombie actors out, and it was like, whoa, oh my God, this is cool. And my son was going up, and he was like, how did you do that? And they were explaining how they'd done it. And he was like looking at the faces, and they were turning their faces, and they were saying how they, made the skin look like this and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh my God, that's genius. And the makeup artist and special effects team were talking about, do you know that this whole thing to put together only cost this much, and we used this and we did this and blah, blah, blah. But it looked amazing. And they were talking about how a couple of the actors there that had come out to show us you know, what the zombies were going to look like, were chosen for these particular roles because they were quite slender people in real life. The actors were quite slender, so it was easy, she was saying, it was easy to pull off to make them look like they were starving, you know, going hungry, gone without a feed, because it helped that the actors were quite sort of slim, and it was just unreal. Like, it was just the most incredible experience. I was sitting there just thinking, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is actually happening. Remember my cosmic whale dream when the cosmic whale went like that, and we all got flung out and into space, and then we were looking down over the stage where the kids were performing the Night of the Black Sun. Well, this dream was making the movie. The thing is, in the dream, there was a scene in the movie that was being shot that had King Charles in it. And King Charles, I'm not saying this is going to happen in real life. I'm just saying it's interesting. But in the movie, King Charles was running a stall somewhere in like a London market town. I can't remember what he was selling though. I just remember it was very colourful. Whatever was on his table was very colourful. And it's like the cameraman was shooting behind the shoulder of Starmer, who was playing the role of someone buying something from the store. And the king was writing up the receipt, and Keir Starmer was to put his card on to make this payment on like his little mini EFTPOS machine. I don't know what you call them here, you know, your electronic transaction cards. I call them EFTPOS, electronic financial transaction point of sale machine. That's what we call them in New Zealand, EFTPOS machines. And he'd done something wrong, and it was flashing all these alerts on the machine, and the king said, "What had you done?" He said, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, it wasn't me. I just did what you told me to do. And the king was like, "It doesn't do that," blah, 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 like, and he was really like, he flew off the handle at the actor Keir Starmer. Like, he was furious. And then he refused to sell him what it was he was trying to buy. And he was so angry, his anger, which is like, remember 28 days later, no, 28 days later, sorry, it was the injection, it was the rage that was turning them into zombies. The rage turned King Charles into a zombie, and then that triggered all the other zombies who were working the market stall, and they ate Keir Starmer in the dream. And then they all went, but after he was gone, after he had been consumed, and they were touching up his makeup and, you know, for the final shot for the cameraman to zoom out to see his consumed body and all of that. And the thing is, he wasn't turned, he was eaten. So he didn't become a zombie, they just ate him. Because you know how, like with vampires have two bites. They have one that turns you into a vampire, and they have one that enslaves you. They can enslave you or they can kill you. And sorry, oh God, look, I'm still half asleep. It's because I keep seeing the scene in my head. Vampires have two bites. They have one that turns you and one that kills you. They can either like drain your blood and kill you, or they can bite you and turn you. And whether you become a vampire or like a slave, you're owned by the one who bites you. Think of Blade. Some get eaten, some become vampires, right? And the ones who become vampires are the ones that become like the slaves to the one who bit them. They work for them. Zombies are the same. When you get bitten by a zombie, they'll either consume you, or they you live enough that you become a zombie yourself. And in our movie, if they don't eat all the time, they start to starve after 3 days and then die. So in the movie, they've got to you got to keep away from them for 3 days, taking higher ground. You got to go to higher ground. And keep away for 3 days so that they don't have access to the people, to a live kill, and then give it like another couple of days so that they starve to death, basically. And what she was showing in the movie, the special effects makeup people, and that was what the zombies will look like on around day 3, and just, oh my God, the makeup looked incredible. So today I'm going to sit and write the script out, write it all out for the Night of the Black Sun. I was about to call it Vantablack. But while I was making my coffee, I was thinking about it, thinking, why was King Charles in the movie? Obviously, and like it looked, see, because then, I forgot to add, look, because I'm still half asleep. Oh, I need to slow down and wake up properly. There was a lot to pack in this movie. After the camera zoomed out and his body was all like, his like throat had been ripped out, and like there was like pools of blood on the back of his head, and like all his arms had been all like chewed, and you could see like all the tendons and everything. It was really gory, which is going to look absolutely fantastic on the screen, when we put it on in the theatre, at our movie theatre. All the zombies, the king, and everyone running the market stall, and it was all the people who were running the market stall that turned into the zombies, that they kind of like encircled him. They cornered him, and they encircled him, and they just tore strips off him. Because he'd done something wrong when it came to the finances. That was the thing. When the king was writing the receipt out, the purchase of sale receipt, it had the HMRC, and it was in black writing, with the crown, that symbol, the HMRC, something on it, that symbol, and it was black, and that was on the notepad for the receipt. And when the king was writing the receipt out, whatever Starmer had done with that card in the EFTPOS machine, he'd screwed it up, and then he tried to blame somebody else, and the king just absolutely lost his poop. And the rage turned him into a zombie, and then that triggered all the other market stall people to turn into zombies, and then they just encircled him. In the movie, as the cameraman panned back, he was standing in the middle, just surrounded by like dozens of these zombies, and they all just, like, the circle got smaller and smaller and smaller, and he kind of, like, you hear the screams and everything, and you see his hands reaching out above the people that were encircling him, and he just fell to the ground. And the music, oh my God, the music was just like heavy electric guitar and dun, 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 dun. So that Jaws sort of, oh my God, it was amazing. It was giving me goosebumps watching it being shot in my dream, I was getting goosebumps because it was just like I knew this movie was going to be something. Like I knew, I turned to my son and I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be fantastic. Like we're onto a winner here, mate." And he was like, "Yeah, I know, Ma." Like we knew we'd created something big. And after the people calm down and they return back to normal and go back to their stalls, wipe the blood off their faces and all of that, and go back to acting like nothing had happened, and the people who were shopping in the market stall didn't even react to it. In the movie, they were just like looking at the stuff on the tables and everything. They weren't even reacting to it. Um, they all returned back to normal. And then they looked at me and my son and they said, they were like, this man came over and he was like, "Oi, darling, come over here," in his Londoner accent. He goes, "I've got something for you." And I said, what is it? And he had this brown, I think he was selling like fruit and veg, and he had this brown paper bag and it was full of money, cash money. "Right, darling, take some of this." And I was like, "What's this for?" And he goes, "To fund the movie." Which was weird because we were already making the movie. He said, "You're on to a winner." I'm getting goosebumps. And then all these people are coming out with like plastic bags and that, just full of cash money. And the king, he goes, "You need to make your movies." And all the people in the market stalls were just handing my son and I'm getting goosebumps, bags of money. So then I was making my coffee and I'm thinking, remember my dream rabbits, vampires, and lambs? After I go to get out of the car and it slams shut, and then the door opens and the vampires get flung into the crowd and eaten by the people. And then the boy hands me opens the car door on the other side, opens the car door, hands me a bunch of flowers, and he says it's okay to come out, it's safe to come out now. And he takes my hand and helps me out of the car, and we walk into what looks like a hall or a hotel somewhere with a red carpet, and I go in and my sons are there with all these people and they're clapping and cheering, and there's the Quantum Menace posters and that behind them, and there's all this food on the table, and a man with brown skin. I just remember he had olive, like brown skin, tanned skin, came rushing over and he said, "Welcome home," and gave me a kiss, and a baby started crying. And I knew whoever he was the man I was going to end up with, right? But my sons were there and they were the only ones I knew. And I was shy. People were clapping and cheering and wanting to talk to me and all of that. I was thinking, and when I had that dream, I said that there was a knock at the door, there was a burst of light, and I landed on a plane in what looked like Boston or New York, right? Because of the buildings. The buildings were covered in flowers, just the most beautiful flowers. But my sons were there. And then I'm thinking about it while I'm making my coffee, and I'm thinking, was that Wakefield? Or London? Or somewhere in England? Because the buildings look like that too here. So now I'm thinking, am I going to get funding to make this musical and movie, or am I going to get funding from British people too? Are British people going to invest in my school, is what I'm saying. Because I'm trying, because HMRC, His Majesty's royal customs. And that's all to do with, like, customs house and all that. That's all to do with businesses and stuff. So has the king found out, or is the king about to find out, that Keir Starmer did something he wasn't supposed to in regards to a business transaction? The king thought he was signing up to one thing, but it actually turned out to be something else that was going to cost the king a ton of money, or because it was out in public and it was a market stall, a lot of people a lot of money, or because he lied. He lied about what he'd done, and it was bad business. It was bad for the king's it was bad for the reputation. It was bad for the king's reputation. And the fact that it's to do with an EFTPOS machine, financial transactions, electronic transactions, digital transactions, I'm wondering whether Keir Starmer and Labour lied to the king about Palantir and this digital thing, and that it's actually going to cost the king his reputation, or has cost. Well, I mean, it has cost the king his reputation. Oh yeah. Oh, that's okay. So that'll be what it is. Remember when the king came out and said digital ID, blah 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 blah, EU, blah blah blah, right? And now the people are like, get him out, and we've got that massive protest at Windsor Castle tomorrow. So, if this dream is anything to go by, the reason why the king went along with it isn't the real reason with what they were planning to do with it, and because we know now that Donald Trump owns that business and everything's blowing up in his face and blah blah blah, it's now taking the king down with him, and the king is furious, is what it's probably saying. So they're taking him down. So all the people in the market stall were friends of the king. So it's probably, I don't know if it's like MPs, parliamentarians, House of Lords, or people in the king's social circle who trusted what they were being told and were investing in what the lie that Starmer had sold them, and it costing them transactions, it costing them their money and their reputations, like in a really bad way. You don't want to go down for being known for that sort of thing. So it'll be like the digital IDs and, the way that he's forcing Palantir, Trump's business, which is the CIA. He's forced the CIA, the modern day SS, on the British people. And I think they lied to the king about it. And the king and his friends tearing it all down. That's what I can think. But then my son and I were sitting back watching it. It was a movie. It was a scene in a movie. So I've got to put that in the movie. I have to write that as a scene in the movie at the start, sort of just at the start when people are just starting to turn and the news is trickling out on the media, but it's not like widespread news. It hasn't reached everybody yet, sort of thing. I have another sip. So I need to put that in the movie. Because Shaun of the Dead is one of my favourite zombie movies in the whole world. Shaun of the Dead, 28 Days Later, The Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, love them. My father would have loved Shaun of the Dead. But ours isn't a comedy, obviously. But see, ours is, when it's a movie, it's not a musical. So I'm going to have to add talking to it, which is fine. But the music from the musical was used as the soundtrack to the movie. So people who enjoyed the musical will be able to enjoy the movie and the music in the movie, because we're just going to transfer it. But instead of there being singing in that, we'll just turn all the singing lines into talking ones and add more talking, turn it into a movie. Now, that was the other thing I forgot. When everything returned back to normal and they were handing us the bags of money, my son and I were walking down the street with like just these, we just had handfuls of bags of money. We just couldn't believe what the hell was going on. Like, oh my God, this is actually happening. I can't believe we get to do this now, and blah, blah, blah. There was this man that came up and he goes, look, I don't have a lot. He said, but I've got to do this because I saw the original musical. I went to see it at the park. And he said, as soon as that album came out, I had to buy the album and I just wanted to do my bit. Oh, and he took out his wallet and gave us 20 quid and stuffed it in the bag. And I was like, oh my God. My son just went, holy shit, Ma. This is incredible. And then that's when I woke up. Because, see, this music that I'm writing, and you know, you see it all on my channel, is I've put all my heart and soul into this. I've come up with the instruments that I know want to be used in it. I've been like singing little bits and pieces, like my son's cadence and all of that. Like I've really put my heart and soul into what little I've created. And then when I get my composer and my musicians and all of that, we're going to sit down and have these brainstorming sessions where we can take the seeds of what I've planted and turn them into actual songs for the musical. But I want this musical to give people the same kind of chills that I get every time I hear War of the Worlds. And I have said from day one, and I was even cheeky enough to say this to the King on X and that, you know, with Orson Welles and Richard Burton, how they do the narration for the musical, I have always said that King Charles should do the voice. He should be the narrator. I said we could sit him in his armchair, sit him in an armchair. He can have like a cognac or something beside him with his script, with a microphone hooked up to him, and do the narration for Vantage Black. He's got the perfect voice for it. If we could just lower his voice a little and make it a bit more sort of, give him a commanding presence. I've always thought his voice would be perfect to be our Richard Burton. I even said to him, we could even have it so that if it was too much for him to come out on stage, because the thing is, right, with the way that people are turning on him, if he trusted me, I could turn it around and make him look like the guy that came good at the end. Because that park was full. You couldn't see grass for all the people. And if he was seen as, look, I'm not the bad guy, I was lied to. I was lied to as well. I'm supposed to trust my government. I'm supposed to trust these people. I didn't realise where this was headed, kind of energy, like humble and apologetic, and trying and allow, and working with me to allow him to fix everything that Labor have gotten wrong over the last few decades, giving the people what they want. They wouldn't turn on him. And then him and his family joining in on the celebrations of Great Britain again. Remember, like I was saying about doing the, like Prince Edward and all that, going around to all like the WI, the Women's Institute, when they do like doing contests for the blue ribbon for the best Victoria sponge, and with the little Union Jack flags flying and that. We need to get back to that. Where they're like, where the farmers are coming out with their prize bulls and the kids are coming out with their prize sheeps and that, and they're like giving them ribbons, and you know, we need to get back to that, agricultural days. and all of that. Get back to when things were simple, which I think has got something to do with the reason why the king was writing out the receipt by hand. Because with a lot of those machines, the receipt comes out the machine. Well, he was doing everything by hand. And him being the narrator in a movie, even though I know it's a touchy subject with Prince Andrew, it would show that the king is taking the side of, I'm anti-human trafficking. I don't agree with this. Keir Starmer gave £1 billion to DP World to traffic humans, right? So if the king stands up and is the narrator, that's his way of saying, I don't agree with it either. I didn't know what he was doing. I wonder if they're investigating my claims into Keir Starmer. And then people being like, you did what? You gave £1 billion to what? So we can't eat and pay for electricity and that, but you gave the defence, you gave Donald Trump and his sons and Palantir 15 billion for what? So you've given 16 billion to human traffickers and the SS, while I have to decide between having the lights on or feeding my kids, sort of thing. So I'm wondering if there's an investigation going on, but he was swarmed. These people swarmed him. So either something has made the king angry or is about to make the king angry because of something Starmer did in regards to money that he lied to the king about. And it's to do with the digital stuff or, AI, Palantir, that sort of thing. And they tore strips off him. Like, that's what I was saying to my son. Oh my God, I knew I was watching, because it's like the music that was playing, and I'm pretty sure I even know I'm pretty sure I even know the piece of, I think I've already recorded the music for it, because it's very heavy electric guitar with some very dramatic bass, and it's like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It reverberated when they came in, and it was leading up to the as they were, and he knew, oh my God, I'm going down, and he's like, no, and he raises his hands, and he's trying to grasp the air to claw himself out of this swarming herd of furious zombies. And they just pull him down, and they just come in on him, and then there's just all this screaming and blood spilling out between the feet of some of these zombies and stuff. And my son and I were just watching it whoa, just knowing that this was what we were watching being acted out was going to be a phenomenal point in the movie. Because then when they all stand up and move back and act like nothing's happened, wipe the blood off their mouths and that, and go back to normal, the one of the guys had picked up a towel that was sitting next to, his paper bags and all that sort of thing. He picked up the towel and he just wiped his hands, wiped his mouth and that, put it in the bin. "Yeah, right, darling, can I help?" Yeah, it's two for... It was I can't remember what it was. It was something like 2 watermelons for £2.50 or something like that. It was something like that, I can't remember. But just acting like everything was completely normal. But then when the camera sort of focuses back on the body, oh my God, the special effects people are going to have a field day. His scalp was hanging off. We'll have to get some sort of realistic looking skeleton and dress it up with bits of fake skin and stuff. The special effects people are going to have a field day. the look of terror on his face with his one eyeball hanging out kind of thing. And my son and I knew we'd created something amazing. Like, we knew that this movie was gonna, like, win awards or something. We knew we'd created something. We were onto a winner. And I think it would look good for the King and the royal family to stand by this project, because it is to raise awareness for human trafficking. And Great Britain is the corridor for Europe and America for human trafficking. It's the corridor between. So any people that are trafficked from Europe or to America or the rest of the world, or any people that are trafficked from the Americas to Europe, they have to come through Great Britain. So His Majesty's customs revenue, that's all to do with HMRC, revenue and customs, is it? That's all to do with what comes in and out of the dockyards and all that as well, eh? So is Starmer under investigation for the DP World thing? And because DP World fund the golf tournament that Trump has in Aberdeen, and Trump owns Palantir, which is, the whole digital ID AI thing that Starmer signed the British up to, the SS, it's owned by Trump. And I'm thinking maybe the King didn't know that. So the King finding out that Starmer had sold the British public to make Trump billions. I'm wondering whether the King has launched an investigation into Keir Starmer and his dealings with Palantir and DP World, because it's all connected. Because Vantablack is the movie that my son and I came up with, the musical, to raise awareness for human trafficking. And because of the whole grooming gang inquiry thing, it shows that what am I being told? It shows that the King hasn't taken sides, because you know how the people are saying that the King has turned on the British because, he's pro-Islam, so he's taken the side of these Pakistani groomers and blah, blah, blah. It's almost like this, like the King saying, I'm not taking sides. I'm anti-human trafficking. It's regardless of your religion or what country you come from. I don't agree with this. That's why I'm not supporting Zelensky. I'm wondering whether he's doing an investigation. I'm wondering whether the King isn't doing an investigation into my claims about Zelensky and von der Leyen and, the Bella One thing. And the 170 kids that went missing off the shores of England. I'm wondering whether the King isn't doing an investigation behind the scenes into Keir Starmer and Donald Trump and Palantir and human trafficking. See, because the thing is, if you don't sign up to the Palantir digital ID system, it's easier for you to disappear. If you can't be tracked digitally, it's easy for you to disappear. So I'm just putting it out there. I may be possibly being told that I might be staying here for a little bit longer, because we've got a musical to put on. And I had said to the king cheekily, as you do, because it's like, my mother used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get. You don't know if you don't ask. And if you don't ask, you won't get it. But if you do ask, you might get it, right? So I've been cheeky, just throwing myself at the king in that saying, you should let me put on this performance at Hyde Park. And we'll come down to London and we'll get all the kids. I even know how I would do it, where I would get the kids from, and I'd go around doing all the school circuit. I'd work with musicians and all that. We'd get the stage all, we'd do the rehearsals, give the king his parts to rehearse, and then his grandkids can actually see him do something good, leave a positive legacy before he goes, rather than what witnessing right now. Because at the moment the people are swarming the king and they're getting ready to consume the king. And it's almost like God keeps saying, no, this isn't how it's supposed to be. He's still got time. He can still do the right thing. Do the right thing. Oh, yeah. Like Chris Tompkins said, there's still time for the king. He just has to do the right thing. He's just got to do the right thing, and then it's like going to turn on a dime. So, am I being told there's still hope for the king to do the right thing by the people? Because that rally's tomorrow at Windsor Castle. If he got me down there now, I could change everything overnight. People wouldn't, that protest would be called off. He'd just have to put me on the tally in front, on the news. As long as he got me to a dentist who could temporarily fix my tooths. I'd be like, look, I know it's bad and I know you're mad at the king, but let me explain. I'm a scientist, right? And I did a whole pile of physics over the last couple of years to show the king blah, blah, blah. And it all happened. And now Starmer's been investigated and he's been arrested because the king listened. And this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to make it up to you while you're waiting for the general election. And I'm going to be Flomp de Floop, the Floof, the temporary Prime Minister, the temporary Flomdaloof until the next election. And to make it up to you, this is what we're going to do to show that the king didn't know. He genuinely didn't know. He wasn't believed, and he was told lies and this, that, and the other. And Palantir, like, I can explain it. I would stand there and I would explain it. I'll be like, right, people of Great Britain, you need to sit down because have I got the tea for you? So this is what happened, right? And then because of that, the king said, hey, look, can you just watch over everything for a bit while we have a general election to plan? And just make sure that I don't have anyone around me who's going to try and do this to me, my family, and my country again. If he just did that, there'd be bunting up in the streets and tables outside and people getting drunk singing, we'll meet again before you know it. But anyway, this dream was 100%. We were filming it in the United Kingdom. And the king was on board. He was part of the movie. He was part of it all. And my son and I were just sitting back, just like with our mouths on the floor. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening. And people were just handing us bags of money to make this movie. and praising us for the album. And when it comes, when we perform the musical live, the live broadcasting, we're going to release the music on LP. I mean, you can have it on digital and all that, but I want it released on LP. There are a lot of musicians and bands of that now, going back to putting their music on albums. I want record stores. I want places to sell record players and that now. Again, I'm going to have a record store. I don't know. I don't know anything about building a school here, but I can tell you that we filmed The Night of the Black Sun and performed the musical here in that dream. So maybe I do this first here before going to America. Because remember, in Becoming Spellbound, it was Starmer and the King's Insiders who went down first, and then Baron von Crumple was extradited to the UK to stand trial in Europe for the crimes. And the ICC have already issued arrest warrants for Trump anyway, apparently. For war crimes. So he's already on their radar, as is Starmer, but maybe we do it. Maybe we do The Night of the Black Sun here. Do you know what it's like? It's almost like this musical movie would be what saved the king. Him getting involved, him doing the right thing and getting involved, is what is going to help change people's opinions of him. Because it's either the king's going to get eaten or Starmer gets eaten. And in my dream, it was Starmer that got eaten. And just like with the first sign with that boy that was being about to be sacrificed and ran down the hallway, you have no power over me, I'm now going to write this dream in a scene in the movie. And Britain hasn't made a good movie in a very long time. I was saying to my son the other day we could even turn it into a like Left 4 Dead style video game. And my games company is called QE2 for Queen Elizabeth II. So, yes, if only Heavenly Father, oh Queen Elizabeth II, you great, wonderful, stubborn, persistent woman. She refuses to give up. If this is meant to be, then if this is the road that it was an option for me to go down, if it was going to save the king and the monarchy and make the people of Great Britain happy, I would 100% do it. Even though I want to get out of here because I can't stay on an island anymore, I've got to spread my wings. I want to be able to get into a car and drive for a few days and know that there's a long road ahead of me where I need to spread my wings. I've got to be able to spread my wings and fly. And it only takes, is it like a day and a half to go from one end of Great Britain to the other? And I'm from New Zealand and I'm done with islands. I grew up in Australia, which is basically a giant island. I need to be able to, I need to get out of here. I want to see all 50 states. I want to see Canada and Alaska and as much of South and Central America as I can safely. I want to see as much of Europe and Asia and that as I can. But if I'm being told, hey, look, have you considered this for now? How about this? I wouldn't say no, especially if I got to work with my son. He's a writer like his mama. He's so imaginative and so creative. He's always, when I'm stuck on something, I go to him and he puts his touch on it and it just perfects the character or perfects the storyline or perfects the beastie, I'm about to go to him to say to him, we need to come up with iconic characters for the time jumping detective like Cybermen and Daleks. Let's do this. Like, this is what I have so far. How would you add to it? What would you do to this character? I'm going to give him a rundown of all my characters and that, and just see what he says, because his finishing touch just makes it like mwah, chef's kiss every time, because we're like we're cut from the same cloth, and looking at him is like looking at Amber. He's got Amber's hands and feet as well. So and yeah, he's just fantastic. And he used my AED therapy, and he's been producing incredible stuff with it. So if I got to work with my son, where we got to make all this come to life, and because the thing is, my son and I, he's going to be the main character. The main character in the movie is based on him. He's the one with the samurai sword that chops the guy's hands off at the end when we fly away in the helicopter. And we're going to perform on stage together. My role is very, very minimal. Bearing in mind this is going to be a live radio broadcast being performed in front of a live audience and put out over the radio, just like War of the Worlds. And broadcast to anyone who wants to listen to it from all over the world. And I'm going to get to go out on stage with my son, if he still wanted to do it, and perform for the people of Great Britain and all of that. If that's what I was being asked to do you mind just staying here for a little bit so that you can do this? I'd be like, hell yes, please. Yeah, I'll stay for a little bit longer. Just get me out of here, because I need space. I need to be able to have space big enough where I can get my writers and musicians and stuff in. Heck, I could even work with Princess Catherine. She plays the piano, doesn't she? Imagine bringing her out on stage to play piano. It would show the people of Great Britain that the royals have a human side, without all the pomp and ceremony, because of how much the people now hate the royal family, and it's not fair. They trusted the wrong people, but they were trusting the people they were supposed to trust more than anyone: their military, their police, their judicial system, their MPs and Prime Minister and that, and these people didn't have the royal families back. They were lied to. They were fed lies in order for these people to get away with what they were doing. So people should be angry, but they're turning their anger on the wrong person. And if this is a wake-up call for the king, and if the king has started investigating the things that I've been claiming, especially in regards to human trafficking and that, then not only would the people forgive King Charles, they would soften to him, and then they would see that he has a human side if he's sitting there lending his voice to these stories. And then his grandkids can grow up being proud. My grandfather did that. My grandfather was a part of that. Because the royal family have taken a massive hit in regards to this whole Epstein human trafficking. They have been called the worst names under the sun for many, many years by conspiracy theorists and stuff. I used to be one of them until I started investigating it and saw who was actually behind all the lies, who was pulling the strings behind closed doors. And that's when I realised, oh my God, they're sacrificing the royal family so that Trump can come in and be king and take over. And he admitted it. And I think I'm just wondering whether the king and his people aren't doing things behind the scenes to investigate my claims, and they're going to find out that I was right about everything. And as a result, I think maybe I might be going to get offered the opportunity to perform Vantablack, because Live Aid, see, it's our version of Live Aid, the Kids Helping Kids Foundation. And Live Aid was created here. Band Aid was created here. It was performed here. The Americans joined in, yeah, but it was the British that did it. The British did it first. So it would be quite the thing to leave for Great Britain. It would be a nice way to wrap things up for Great Britain. People could, if we televised it, people could sit out in the street. They could set up speakers in the street and listen, and have street parties like barbecues. All the neighbours, we could get everyone together to come out, or people with big backyards. I'm getting goosebumps. Could, like, if we broadcast it, they could put up their tally, they could invite the people around, they could go out with their barbecues and beer, and fill the streets and just listen to the musical being performed. Or if we broadcast it on the telly, they could all get together, because I want to put it on about 7 o'clock at night. So, it's just starting to turn dark by the time we wrap it up, just to give it that atmosphere. But if we did it now, I could have it all ready to go for Halloween, and I think it would be brilliant for Halloween. We'd have to work pretty far, like we'd have to, just like with Band-Aid, I'd need all hands on deck, pretty quick. Deck. All hands on deck. Kiwi accent. We'd have to work pretty quick if we were going to have it done sort of by the end of summer, beginning of autumn. It could be done though. Because I just love the idea of everyone getting out with their beer, Nana with her vodka, or my mum, she would have gotten her ouzo out. Because I remember Band-Aid, and it was the greatest experience of my life. We could have supermarkets doing promotions for the Kids Helping Kids, like sponge cakes, and doing deals on bickies, and cups of tea, and price, promotions for beer and all of that, to encourage people to get out and have big street parties where they listen to this performance, the King's live performance. And then I think they'd forgive him. But I want to handpick my musicians. I will handpick my musicians, regardless of where I do it. Nobody comes on board without me signing off on it. And then it would be a great way to wrap up what we were all put through when they faked the pandemic, when we all got locked up, to the open air concentration camps we're being forced to live in now. It'll be a great way to wrap it all up and say, like, wipe our hands. Well, now that's done, let's roll our sleeves up, keep calm and carry on. Let's have a musical. Dun dun dun, dun 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 dun. God, I love that musical so much. My music, I need to work with people who are There's there's actually a couple of British musicians, bands, people in bands that I quite like. Like, well, not that I quite like, I listen to them on Spotify, that I think I would love to be able to bring on board and say, hey, do you want to come and help me write this music? Hot Chip, I love Hot Chip. And because my music is a little bit, there's like classical musical instruments, but there's guitars and a little bit like electro pop sort of. Well, you know War of the Worlds, if you know War of the Worlds. And I love Hot Chip, and I'd love to work with Hot Chip, as long as Hot Chip know that it's not about Hot Chip, it's about them helping me do what I got to do to then, and then they would teach the kids and, blah. But yeah, there's a few British bands in that I like, where I would love to get their expertise and say, right, this is what I've written. Can you help me finish it? And it's got to be like this. It has to be to my specifications. And if they put in like a trumpet, and I'm like, no, it can't be a trumpet. It has to be a clarinet. They've got to listen to me, because it's all to do with biorhythmics. You see, I'm a biorhythmic engineer. So they would have to, if it doesn't sound right to me, it's not going to sound right to the listener. And when the listener listens to the music, it's going to heal them. It's going to help them calm down. Remember when they were anticipating riots and that kicking off when Tommy Robinson did that thing in London a few weeks ago? And I put that message out and everything was really calm, and it pissed Starmer and that off that they didn't get the kick-off that they were wanting to kick off, because I'd put it out over to the airwaves. Well, I can do that where it calms everyone down from the hell that we've had to live since they faked the COVID thing. We've been put through hell for the last 6 years, and it would be like nearly 7 years. 7 years? Just trying to think. Well, I know I've got videos of my boys with COVID in 2019, so it's 7 years. My boys got the COVID in 2019 because I walked in the snow to get their medicine and stuff. I've got, my son had the COVID on his birthday in 2019, so 7 years. Hang on. Yeah, because I can't do maths. So 7 years. They were really sick. I was the only one that never got it. All three of them. They had these horrendous coughs. My son, I've got photos of him, my baby, in my bed, snuggled with purple lips. He couldn't breathe and he was hallucinating, and it was horrendous. We didn't know what it was. And then after COVID hit in 2020, we were like, hang on, that's what they had. Chris and the boys, they had COVID, and I've got the videos and the photos and everything. So COVID wasn't in 2020, it started in 2019 in our household, but I never got it. So I had to look after everyone. And I walked in the snow to get Chris his medication because he needed, what was it, paracetamol, and because I was going to make up like lemon drink and all that. So I literally walked in the snow by myself to go and get the stuff that he needed to feel better, because I'm that kind of woman. And he wasn't even my husband, but yeah, I was like their Mary Seacole, and they were sick for weeks. So 7 years, I think. We've been dealing with it for 7 years. So it'd be a nice way to wrap it up, I think, and get everybody out and encourage our neighbours to get, all the elderly people, bring them out the house. I know exactly how I know exactly what the king can do, and the people would end up not only forgiving him but loving him for it if he just listened. So I don't know what this dream means, whether I'm staying here to make the movie and perform the musical here. But if that's, just hypothetically speaking, if that's what I'm being told, hey, can you just stay here for a little bit longer so that you can do this with your son and blah, 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 give the people a street party, blah, 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 I would absolutely 100% say yes, because I would love to do that for my son. If I got everything I wanted and we got the government we needed and they stopped messing with the weather so we started having snow again, I would 100% stay in Great Britain as long as I had access to Europe and America as well. Just even for travel, because I need to be able to spread my wings. But if my boys didn't want to go anywhere, and in an ideal world we got a good government and we had no one messing with the weather and my boys didn't want to leave, I would absolutely stay here. And then I would just, Europe's literally just like a train away. But in my dream, it was only the night of the Black Sun. It wasn't, I didn't see the school. I didn't see anything like that. It was just the night of the Black Sun. So I don't know. I don't know what it means. I'm just assuming, like, I don't know. Am I being asked to just stay here a little bit longer to do this? Or was it just a dream to say, hey, look, people are going to help fund your musical and your movie? Or what? I don't know. I haven't found anything in the United Kingdom that's suitable for what I want to build, and I would never build anything here while we've got our government signing the kids up and the kids up to the SS, so that an American president can make billions from it. And I'm just wondering if that's not what becoming spellbound was about, why he ends up getting extradited. Because of the whole DP World Palantir deal that he signed with Starmer. And I'm just wondering whether there's not an investigation going on. And if that's the case, it would be why I keep seeing him in handcuffs. Because Palantir are the whole reason why Chernobyl got bombed as well. And we can't have the king's dying legacy to be he allowed his government and Secret Service to pull off the radiation poisoning of hundreds of millions of Europeans and Asians. So, yeah, so I'm just putting that dream out there, but regardless of whatever it means, I've just witnessed an incredible scene to put in that movie that I'll need to put in the musical. But I have to write the script in a way that people lay back and listen to it, where they imagine it. And then when we bring the movie out, the musical is everything they imagined the movie to be. And then we can turn it into a video game, like Left 4 Dead, which is one of my favourite video games of all time. And like I said, the beauty of it all is that my games company is QE2 Games, Queen Elizabeth II Games. QETWO, because that's what we call her in New Zealand, QE2. It just means Queen Elizabeth II, because all our military, my dad's army stuff, on his beret and that had the insignia QE11, and so we just called her QE2. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to go and have my second coffee now. I've got a couple of little chores to do. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō.